Hello everyone, I'm Neetu Ann Thomas, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, SNIT Adur. As in my first lecture, I have taught you about the steps in decision making process. Hope you all remember that. To recollect, I'll just sum up. The steps in decision making process involves identifying the problem, as we've discussed earlier. Identification of the problem, analyzing the problem, developing alternatives, deciding on the best solution, implementation, and lastly follow-up. Hope these steps are clear for you in the process of decision making. Now we're going to learn the factors affecting the decision making process. Factors affecting decision making process. Okay. So for a decision making process, there are several factors which affect the decision making process. Firstly, we'll talk about the decision situation. So when you talk about the decision situation, when is the decision making actually happening? Or what is the situation, in what situation this decision making we have to do? So there are various elements. For example, there would be a factor of risk or uncertainty or change, which are very common in decision situation. So it is a duty of the manager or the person who is taking the decision to recognize on what basis we are taking the decision. So risk implies, or we know that we really know what the possible outcome will be in case of risk, whereas in uncertainty we're not sure about what the outcome will be. So it might be a possibility of guesswork. So the risk factor, we are very well aware of the probability of the outcome, whereas in uncertainty it is unknown. That is, we're not sure about the result or the outcome. So this is one factor which affect decision making process, that is the decision situation, on what situation we are taking the decision. Secondly, it is the decision makers. So who is making the decision? Different people approach decision making in different ways. So the individual might be unique in terms of their abilities or beliefs or their skills or their personalities or their values, whatever you can say. So there are different approaches that the person who is taking the decision might adopt. So there are many issues who is involved in decision making process. Whoever is doing this decision making process might have different ways in making a decision. So it depends upon the decision maker also. So that's another factor which affect the decision making process. Thirdly, time. So a decision is made at a particular time in a particular set of circumstances. That is, when you have to take this decision, as we've already told about the decision situation, that situation might happen at a specific period of time. The risk factor or the uncertainty factor might happen in a period of time, which we call it as a time factor. So this decision situation can change also very fast. So depending upon the person who's making the situation, depending upon the situation in which this decision is being made, the time factor also changes. So that's the third point. Now the fourth point is decision support techniques. So decision support techniques, in which there are many methods in which we can support a decision. That is, there are many theories or tools or techniques that can be adopted to explain a decision making process. So they offer support to the decision making process. That is, it becomes an easy process when you take all these supporting techniques, or we'll implement some easier tools for operating a situation. So the effectiveness of the decision making depends on the use of appropriate tool for the appropriate situation. That is, based on the situation, you have to adopt which tool or which theory you're going to set up for this decision making process. So it depends upon the situation. So that's a fourth factor, decision support techniques. And finally, the people affected by the decision. So people who are likely to be affected by decision will have direct or indirect influence on the outcome of a decision. That is, say for example, if in a certain situation we took a decision and it turned out to be a positive one, and the company started getting a lot of profit out of it, so you can say that the outcome is positive. That is, the people who are affected by this decision is affected positively, or there is a direct influence on the outcome of the decision. The people will get affected. That is, people will get more wages, or they'll get considerable relaxation because of this decision. They got some profit for the organization. What if the decision that we're taking turns out to be negative? That is, there is a loss for the company. The people will directly get affected by it. They considerably get affected negatively. So the people are another factor who can affect decision making process. So these are some points, that is 5 points, which you should be learning for factors affecting the decision making process. That is, the decision situation, the decision makers, time, decision supporting techniques, and the people affected by the decision. Now you're going to study the limitations of decision making. Limitations include, first one, time consuming. That is, when you take a decision, you consume a lot of time. Decisions take a lot of time because the managers has to study the merits and demerits of all the alternatives that has been available. They will not be well versed with the alternatives, and they will not be knowing the whole story of the problem or the decision process. So he has to take advice from many people before making a decision. So all these will take a lot of time. So you say that decision making is time consuming. Secondly, compromised decisions. So compromised decisions, in the sense, you have a difference of opinion among members of the group. So there is a group that is being sought out for decision making, and these group members will have different opinions. This might result in a compromised decision. Compromised decision in the sense it has to please all the members. The decision that has been taken has to please all the members in the group. So it might not give good result on implementation. On implementing this decision, which is a compromised one, it may not give good result in implementation. That is the second limitation. Thirdly, biased decisions. The manager makes decisions which only benefit himself and his group. That is biased. That means he is only concerned about himself and his group members, not worried about the other people working in the organization. So this badly affects the workers or the consumers or the society as a whole. So sometimes decisions might be biased. So that is another limitation of decision making. Fourthly, limited analysis. So before making a good decision, the manager must analyze on all the alternatives, as I have told before. Alternatives and their positives and the negatives of each alternative should be studied properly by the group or the managers involved, and then only he can give a best solution or a best alternative for the problems. But most managers do not do this because they may not get sufficient information regarding the situation, or it might be due to their inexperience that causes a demerit for the situation, in information for the situation. So the inexperience and lack of expertise may also result in limited analysis. This limited analysis results in bad decisions. That is, for a good decision to be taken, the manager must be well aware of the merits and demerits of the decision situation. Or if he is not well aware of it, or if he is inexperienced, or if he did not get enough information regarding the situation, it can go in a negative way. That is, it can lead to a bad decision making. That is the fourth point. Fifth one is uncontrollable environmental factors. So environmental factors like political factors, social factors, technological factors, and there are many other factors that are involved in environmental factors. So these factors are dynamic in nature. That is, it can change at any time according to the situation. So a manager has no control over these environmental factors. When these environmental factors change, that can also lead to a bad decision making, or the decision that he might have taken may gone wrong. So this is another limitation for decision making. And finally, uncertain future. That is, usually decisions are made for the future. We are making decisions in order to be conducted in the future. So future is very uncertain. We are not sure about what happens in the future. So it's very difficult to take decisions for the future. That is another limitation of decision making. So these are the 6 limitations, which is time consuming, compromised decisions, biased decisions, limited analysis, uncontrollable environmental factors, and finally uncertainty of future.